So I want to talk about some areas on older vehicles that I never detail and give you guys the reasons why. And I also kind of want to have a business conversation about how to talk about this with a customer, because if you don't understand what this is like, you're going to face it in your detailing business and it'll be a huge problem. So this Sequoia is a great example of the type of vehicle I'm talking about, because what happens when you have older vehicles is you obviously have natural wear and tear damage on the interior and on the exterior that no matter how much detailing you do, you will not improve it at all. And it's worth explaining to the customer that it's not even worth any of your time, because you could focus your time on areas that would improve the overall visual appeal of the vehicle, and that is actually what they want. So the first area that I want to talk about here is an area like the steering wheel, because an area like the steering wheel or other areas that are touched all the time on an older vehicle will naturally be worn away and damaged at some level. You guys can see on this steering wheel, the leather starting to wear away, and you get kind of this sticky underside, which is the adhesive that's underneath that leather that keeps it kind of sewn and glued on to the steering wheel cast itself. That's an area of the car that is always going to be damaged no matter what when you've got a car that's like 15 plus years old, because you're running your hands around the steering wheel every single time you drive the car, and obviously you're gonna start wearing it away. Well, what a lot of detailers don't understand about the sticky part of that steering wheel is they try to clean it away because they think it's some sort of add-on or adhesive from somebody's hands or some spill. And the reality is, if you start scrubbing that area, you will scrub more and more of the leather away and make the customer even more frustrated than if you didn't touch it at all. Now, another area I want to highlight like this on the door panels is going to be the door handle. Oftentimes, if you have a door handle that's chrome plated or just plastic, what ends up happening is you have permanent discoloration, often on a tan door handle, because you've got kind of some black marks or some rubbed away marks where it's lighter than the original appearance because it's just been rubbed so much. And oftentimes on those chrome plated door handles, they actually start to crack off over time, exposing kind of like a white or yellowish plastic cast underneath that the chrome has gone over. And obviously there's nothing you can do about that. There's no amount of cleaning that will put that chrome back on, and no amount of cleaning that will restore that original color. Now let me explain why this is so important to talk about with the customer, because if it's just one or two of these things, it's really not a big deal. But when it's a car that has a bunch of them, it starts to add up. But really quick, for those of you who are not yet signed up for the live Zoom training that's totally free that I'm hosting on May 11th, the link to register is in the YouTube description box below. I'm gonna be giving you guys my playbook to scaling to over $8,400 a month with ceramic coating. So even if you've never started a detailing business, this is totally for you. Or if you have started your detailing business, but you're still working part-time detailing, you don't know how to go full-time, you're ready to raise your prices, you're ready to get customers who want to pay for ceramic coatings, you're ready to do this for free without paying a marketing agency or doing paid ads on social media that don't work, this training is definitely for you. I'm gonna be sharing with you guys the step-by-step formula I and many others have used that nobody really talks about, and we're gonna be talking about how to do it in the same calendar year that you actually start to implement this. So if you're ready to scale to 6 figures in your detailing business, but you can't figure out how, make sure to register for this training. I do it about once a year, so do that before the spots fill up. Now let's get back into the video. The problem with a Sequoia like this and a customer getting a detail is that there are only certain parts of the interior and exterior that can be improved at a level that is noticeable. And that's the key word here, the noticeable improvement. You can spend time detailing a car like this, and literally the customer comes afterwards and they're like, you did not detail the car at all. I'm not paying $400 for this. And if the conversation is not had on the front end about all of the small details that are a part of this car that are damaged, that will not be improved, they will not understand. So I'm gonna get into more of those in just a second, but literally what I like to do is walk through one by one each area of the car that is not going to be improved, because while yes, you might think it's over communicating with the customer and maybe you're giving them too much information, when you stack things on top of each other in a 5-minute or less period with a customer, their reality comes back down to actual reality, because you're stacking them on top of each other and you're going from one thing to the next, that their expectations get lowered automatically. So it might sound something like this. Hey customer, I want to point out some areas of the car that are not going to be improved, because like we talked about, it's a relatively old car and it's got a lot of damage, and so I want to be able to focus my energy on the things that matter to you and that will actually matter when the detail is done. So I want you to notice the steering wheel. The leather is totally worn away here, right? This is not going to be improved because it's just not possible, right? I can't put leather back on the car. I want to point out a couple areas on the door panel that have been touched over time. You can see that obviously the tan color here is starting to die out, and I can't re-dye the car here. I want to show you a couple areas on the front. Check out all of the rock chips and the etchings on the front where the paint is missing. I'm obviously not going to be able to do all the touch-up paint necessary to make this look like it's supposed to. I want to show you guys the brake dust on the inner barrel of the wheel. Once you get through 5 or 6 things, the customer honestly kind of stops you and they're like, hey, I totally get it. I appreciate you're trying to set my expectation. Listen, I'm not expecting a bunch of stuff. This is going to be good. I want this to happen. I want to pay for it. Just go ahead and do it. At which point I take their direction and say, okay, great. great. I just wanna share with you the areas I'm gonna focus on. The carpets will be focused on, the leather seats where they're not super cracked will be focused on, these pieces of the headliner will be focused on. So we'll talk about those things specifically after the detail. You actually want to get to a point where your customer stops you in some ways, because it's an indication that you have communicated to a level where they get it. And I understand that it can be kind of too much at some points, and obviously you have to take it on a situation by situation basis. But when they say, hey, I get it, I appreciate your honesty and transparency, let's just go ahead, then you can be confident that post detail, they're not gonna be complaining and trying to negotiate with you on your price. Now, the next relevant area I wanna point out on this Sequoia is this rubber seal or rubber trim that's around the windows that's totally peeled away, and you see the chrome pieces are exposed. And part of this actually kind of keeps things a little watertight, though with it missing, you're not gonna have, a door that fills with water. It's not quite that simple. But this is an area that obviously cannot be fixed, and ripping off the rest of the rubber is actually only gonna make a future problem worse. And so this is an area where, again, things are stacking on top of each other with damage that I can only improve so much. And so the point is, as you improve the things around the damage brings down the overall visual appeal of the vehicle. And so even if the paint is polished, for example, you don't notice it as much because of these small things like the trim. Now, the next most obvious area is gonna be the leather seats that are cracked, and obviously crack more and more over time, to the point where sometimes you can't even address the leather seat without cleaning away some of the leather, and those leather cracks just have to be left there. There's nothing you can do. Now, the front seats here have actually been reupholstered, and so I just wanna show you guys after a leather seat has been reupholstered, and that was probably, let's say, 2 years ago, versus the seats that have never been reupholstered. You can see the difference here, and there's obviously a difference, but this is actually a good example. Sometimes you have to just fix the permanent damage with a permanent solution rather than trying to clean what was not protected in the first place. And the last area I want to focus on here is the brake dust around the rims or around the wheels, particularly the inner barrel of the wheels, but also on the face of the wheel. That is never going to come off. Even if we took the wheel off, we would have to sand it down and do some pretty extreme stuff to bring that back to its original luster, and probably call some wheel detail guy to help us out. And so there's just no way to fix that stuff. So the point here is, when you have these things stacking on top of each other, there is a communication barrier that is necessary for you to cross, or you're gonna have a problem on the back end of the detail. And these 4 areas are very specific areas that happen a lot with older vehicles, and it's important to understand that sometimes you can't even touch the area. It's literally a place I don't detail on older vehicles. So guys, remember, if you are not yet registered for May 11th and you wanna scale your business with ceramic coatings, use the link in the YouTube description box to register. Thank you guys so much for being involved, and as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I will see you in the next video.